Welcome everyone to the September board meeting for Ignite CDA. If we'd all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. It's time for public comment. Any public comment? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion for the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar consisting of the August 2025 board meeting minutes, the district monthly financial statements, and the agency payables as submitted.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion, comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks. That motion carries. Next up is the Executive Director's Report. Tony.
Mr. Chairman, this on? Yep, it is on. The first item under the Executive Director's Report is the Chase Mixus Area 13 Disposition and Development Agreement Concept Modification and Timeframe Extension Request. So just to provide a little background for everybody and those viewing here. So the disposition of the Atlas Project Area 13 was one of the last board transactions to occur in the now closed Ignite CDA Lake District. Area 13 was sold to the Chase Mixus team in December of 2023 so that said property sale proceeds could be transferred to the city to help reimburse the city for their acquisition costs associated with purchasing the Brownfield Atlas Mill site. Although not ready to begin development of the site soon after closing, the Chase Mixus team agreed to close on the property sale in December of 2023, as long as they were given ample time to create a development concept for a somewhat challenging site. Ignite CDA agreed to give the Chase Mixus 2 years from closing, in other words, until December of this year to 2025, to begin phased construction of the board-approved site development concept of 2 residential buildings and 1 commercial building. Over the past 2 years, both the development schedule and design concept have been refined, which brings the development team back to Ignite CDA board for proposed DDA amendments. So this evening, Mr. Dean Pape with the Chase Mixus will share a presentation with you that will have 2 DDA modifications requests. They'll be requesting a board approval for a DDA amendment regarding the redesigned development concept and requesting board approval for a DDA amendment regarding a time frame extension. So with that, I'll invite Mr. Dean Pape up here to visit with the board on his 2 requests.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Board members, thank you for your time. It's great to be here. Excited about this project. I feel like it was like a rinse and repeat. I was here last night, of course, asking for similar modifications to this project, which did get city council approval. So I appreciate the support of those that are on the board here also. So a little bit of the same information, a little more context in regards to kind of the process we've gone through, as last night's presentation was really focused on an easement or 2 easement adjustments. Please dive in at any time. Stop me at any time if there's questions that you guys want to discuss as part of the presentation. So, as Tony mentioned, I put kind of the modifications all into one. One's really the construction start date that's part of our current agreement, and we'll talk about the design. And part of that design we're within regulations on our current design in terms of height. We're not talking about the height, a possible height addition, but I did want to point it out because it might be something that we want to talk about in the future. So, what I'd like to do is just go through some history about the project and how the design has morphed from the original proposal that was selected. I'm not sure if it was this committee or a subcommittee in regards to selecting us for the opportunity, and how it's changed, and honestly how it's kind of come back to what was originally kind of presented. Associated with that is where this drive access way is and the modifications that were approved by the city last night in regards to a new easement and an adjustment of a current easement that's in place that we believe is better both for this project, but also better for the neighborhood and the community and the park that's adjoining the project. I'll go quickly through what was approved last night, and then we can talk quickly kind of about what we're requesting at this point. So a brief history. This is the original concept proposal. As you can see on the left-hand side, does the cursor work on this?
Pardon?
Does the cursor work? Kind of, sort of. Oh, okay, great. Perfect. So as you can see, as part of the original proposal, this access point actually was in this location to go underneath the building. What we didn't know at the original submission was the grade change that was from the roadway all dropping down to the river on this site location. So ultimately, to make this happen, we'd probably have to have an elevator of sorts to bring cars down to a lower level. Of course, that wasn't the most viable option for a successful project. I'll also point out that there's still 3 nodes that Tony pointed out, kind of a commercial node and 2 residential nodes. We've kept with that same concept through the entirety of this design process. And a couple of visuals looking from the park side, what the building was intended to look like at initial proposal, and looking, of course, upriver along the river pathway. So currently, as approved in our design documents, this is what is the DDP, I believe, is the approved
DDA.
DDA document. Sorry, too many projects. DDP, DDA. So what we did at that point is we actually moved the access point over to here to get grade change to get underneath the building, and at the same time would allow us to actually separate commercial parking and residential parking easily within an underground parking garage. So if you're looking kind of bird's eye view across the river, this is what that concept would generally look like. So from that point, getting a little to where we are now, what we've learned about the property, both with the elevation change that I mentioned earlier and the other concept would have allowed for that, we found out that the demand for water view in regards to what we're selling in condos at the location is a much of a premium and is what is really desired. So the original plan set a building behind another building, and working with our design team and our marketing team by moving the 3 buildings around, basically swapping what was the commercial building with the residential building to give a primary facing element for the residential condos. And then what we learned from that is it also pointed to a couple areas of concern where that access way was going to be located and where we've now located it, along with ease of access to actually getting to the retail area. Because of the grade change, we'd actually be about 10 feet above the riverway or the walkway to keep it at grade, where the new location actually has an easier access from the park side and also from the access pathway. So this is the design revisions and where we currently are. So what was discussed last night is really focused on this element on this side. What we're talking about tonight is the adjustment and changes of where the building is now, where they are now located, and in addition to the changes that are along this pathway that would potentially impact the ability for the project to be built. A couple of items that are not noted in here, and I don't have visuals for those. I'm sorry, I don't have those. There are actually some utilities that are located on the easterly or westerly, the downriver parcel, down a little part of the project. So there are some utilities in this area. There's also some utilities in this area that would have impacted the ability to actually put the roadway along that side. Would be possible to do it, but there would be an impact to move those. The other thing that you wouldn't notice in the prior design, because we didn't have a clear understanding of the elevation change, is if you're walking along the pathway, the visuals looking at the property would not look similar to what was originally intended because of the grade change. You'd actually be looking at a structure that would hold the roadway. So this would actually be a structural wall along this side. So imagine walking on that area, and what you'd be looking at is something from grade, which is 8 to 10 feet, dropping down probably around 2 feet higher than the walkway. So you just basically see a wall along there. So we've replaced that with a full vegetation area on this side, which we believe is much better both for the project and for the public. Revised renderings, some of those were earlier. So this would be sitting on the waterway, looking at the westerly building, and then the easterly building would be in the back part of this. And then stepping back a little further to give some context to the rest of the neighborhood. Of course, across the street, there'll be more structure there on 5A, hopefully in the near future. We're excited to see that one come forward. But what I was talking about earlier, if we went with the drive in this area from before, as you see, this structural wall would actually be along here, along that pathway. So that's what you'd kind of be looking at. So that's a change that was an unintended positive when we actually did it, that we weren't even thinking about when we adjusted the change. I'll go quickly through what was discussed last night, and those who were there, please correct me if I'm talking out of terms. So currently, this is the easement that's in place. It's a two-part, or call it a three-part easement. The easement, in addition to having utilities below grade, to have those utilities there, also is an access easement for fire life safety, both police, ambulance, and fire, which helps the project. It also is a pedestrian pathway. So it's located on the property, and the easement's given to the city for that pedestrian pathway and for emergency access vehicles and for the utilities. What was a great idea and a great concept that, I'm not sure what this is, sorry. Jumped out, oh, sorry, I copied all of this over from the city. So what we found is moving the driveway also had impacts of comfort when regards with having people walk there, if you're having more vehicles actually along that area, entering into the garage, the residence for the property. So again, a great idea by the city was, well, why don't we move the pedestrians and actually make that pedestrian walkway as a part of the park? And we thought, well, why not? It actually feels better to be able to do that and separate any sort of traffic that may be on that area to the park side. So this is the concept that we're currently moving forward with. The difference here is the outline. That's the outline of the easement that the city's agreed to provide us to build this. So we will construct, and we'll take on the cost of constructing this public area and then hand it over to the city to maintain going forward. A couple elements to consider as a part of that. This is the easement again, and you've seen that. So some of the areas, and again, I can flip back and forth, some of the areas that, again, I wish my associate Mark Sindel was here to really point to some of the really particulars, but spent a fair amount of time working with the Parks Department to make sure that it was part of the greater vision for the park. And what I learned last night that I didn't know before is there was a general plan of some sort of buffer along this property line in the park that wasn't actually able to be implemented earlier when they actually built the park. And I don't have any context, I just heard that last night, so I'm not sure if that was part of the plan, but that's something that I heard from staff. So this is an area that's along the pathway that allows people to mingle. It has benches, and then there's a shade structure in there. Again, elements that the Parks Department recommended being part of this kind of natural walkway. A couple other things to point out. One of the considerations discussed with staff was the ability to still have easy access to the retail area. So having that active area, which we think is very important, and having a pedestrian path that is a direct access. So this is that number 4 that actually would go directly across the drive and to the walkway. And then number 20 is generally pointing out a gate or inhibiting so that cars can't easily access in and out of there, and also protect the pedestrian pathway. The lower right-hand photo is actually along the river pathway, and this is another public element that we're building onto the property itself to allow people to step off of the walkway and just enjoy what is there, which will be an amazing view. And the landscape and design team did a very good job of not building so much structure that it just feels like a cave. So actually buffering the hard building scape with some green landscaping. So what's called out in 11 and 12 is some natural landscaping. What you can't tell is an elevation change from number 9 down to number 3. Number 9 is on top of the parking garage. Number 3 is at grade. So there's about a 10-foot elevation change between that lower level and the upper level. And what we wanted to do was to make sure that it felt very comfortable and open, but also secured at the lower level. And from the upper level, didn't feel like you're towering over. So that's where the landscaping is really providing a good buffer between those.
Dean,
Yeah.
I should have probably caught this question last night.
No problem.
So 20 is a gate, and it looks like just a couple parking stalls or a gate for fire access. Can you remind what 18 is?
So permanent access for fire.
Okay.
It's an easement that allows access through. The intent was, and we haven't found what the ultimate solution is, but the intent is to make sure that it doesn't feel like anyone can drive down there, so there's not over trafficked, and really secures it for the people that can easily walk across there. Something we talked about multiple times with staff was, got to be great to have the ability to kind of sit on this porch, but have your child run over and play in the park, but still have some visual elements to see them. I do enjoy a park when my kids were younger to, have a glass of wine and let them go run and play. So some of those elements were taken into context when we were looking at it, but still making sure that it feels safe to walk across there.
Hey, Dean, if I interrupt, just some earlier documentation, I saw that the number 4 pathway, you had a quote, if feasible to put in. So now you're saying that is a for sure thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so the infeasible part was the elevation between that walkway up. We had moved it to another location, and it just became imperative to be able to do that. So that's where we're moving it around. We'd go along kind of 15 and around that area. So yes, the intent is to put it across there.
Also, just to clarify, I mean, that's how the residents are going to get in too, right? It's not just fire access.
Correct. It's a driveway. 23 condos in the project. What we found is that even, and kind of a great benefit, is this area that's in green, 22, originally designed when it was just primarily for the fire access only and access to the building and pedestrian. That was going to be hardscape, so asphalt, concrete, something from where the entrance of the building is all the way down to the pathway. Again, working with the city and our architectural team, we're actually going to grasscrete that area so it softens it up and doesn't feel like a primary drive anymore, which then allows for grass to feel in that area and feels like the landscape. It doesn't feel like just a road that dead ends into the pathway along the river. So this was the recommendation. I won't read it for you, but this is the recommendation that was approved by City Council last night. Ultimately, it's 2 easements. One gets redrafted that's currently in place, and then a new easement that allows us to go and build what we just went through in terms of a park, addition to the park, and a walkway from the roadway down to the river. So, as Tony pointed out, the primary purpose today is to get an approval for an extension. And the one thing that I didn't talk about earlier is the current DDA has a 2-phased project. It has either or. Needs to start either the residential or needs to start the retail within 2 years of closing. Did I say that correctly? What we're now doing is we're eliminating the phases. If it was continue phase, the second phase, and correct me on this one, I think the second phase had to start within 3 years of the start of the first phase, or 2 years of completion of the other phase, or something like that. So, yeah, exactly. So what we're doing is we're eliminating that. So what would have been multiple phases, one starting within a couple months of now, another one stay 3 years from now, now we're eliminating that second phase and we're building the entire project at one time. And for that, we're asking for some additional time to actually start the project. 14 months allows us to do that, to be able to be comfortable. We think that we can do that in a short amount of time, but there's certain things that are out of our control in regards to the permitting process, entitlement process, that we can't control those timelines as much as we'd like to. So that's the primary ask, in addition to the modifications that Tony pointed out and that we walked through from the kind of original and then the DDA design documents to what we're moving forward with now. That's most of the presentation. There are some additional visuals if we'd like to dive into those, or we can answer some questions and they may help answer some of those questions.
Questions, comments?
Dean, can you elaborate a little bit more on the 14-month delay and the permitting entitlement process you're thinking about? So that means you're coming out of the ground in the first quarter of 27?
Right now, as a conservative, yes. What I'd hate to do is come back to you guys in 6 months or 8 months or a year and say, we were delayed because of X. This gives us some buffer to do that. It's not when I want to start construction. I'd preferably start it, say, in the summer or fall, which would be the intent. This just allows us to not have to come back to the council or group to ask for that.
All right. And a question for our leadership team to clarify, what do we define as commencement of construction? Is that pulling a building permit, or how is that usually benchmarked?
I think if you could back up to your schedule, in that 14 months, you can kind of, you can't really see it real clear there, but the permitting process is in there. Dean, maybe you can read it.
I will do my best, yes. So, again, being conservative, taking from where we are right now, today is a critical timeline that we could actually move faster on because it's finalizing city and Ignite approvals. So getting through that, we actually had tied that out to go into November. So we could accelerate that at this point by getting that done a little bit sooner. And then that starts our design development. So with approval tonight, we could actually accelerate a couple of months and then start through our construction documents to get our construction documents done in June. The permitting process currently allows for a 6-month period. So we're talking about a June submission and a 6-month period for permits. I think we're being very conservative in our timelines right now, and I think we can accelerate those.
And out of the additional complexity you're taking on for a condo plat as well, so that's
true.
a little out of the ordinary, but, okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
If I may, I think it'd be a good time just to talk about any potential height increase that you're going to be looking at. You know, right now it says, 45 feet is the allowed, and you submitted to us that your buildings are looking to be in the 44-foot range.
Correct.
And with the board's approval, you could creep up to 53 feet.
True.
And your partner Matt said that you're not quite sure where you're at, but I think this would be a good time for the board to discuss that, because any height variance would be depending on their perception of public benefit that you've provided to the project. So I think that would just be good for maybe you to kind of share. Do you have any idea how tall you want to go?
Thank you for the segue. As of right now, we're about 6 inches from our height limit. So any adjustments through design process that may get close or go over that height limit, we would be coming back and talking about that. We'd love to have that approval beforehand, just to give us some grace to make sure that we don't have to come back and have that conversation in the future. So the public benefit part of our current understanding is by providing that public benefit, which we believe we are doing by building the public park area and walkway and public use on the private property, would allow us to raise the height of the project. Currently, again, we are not in that position. We are below the total height limit, but does give us some additional flexibility. What we haven't looked into and what we haven't considered because of the height limit is just gives us some undulation of actual structure, so it doesn't look like it's all just kind of one height in the area, which I think gives better context to giving some differentiation. We're just not able to do that because of that height limit right now. So to be clear, we're not asking for it right now. We're very close to going over that. It's probably something that we would love some consideration on, that would just take some pressure on and allow us to, I think, build a little more of a creative project on kind of what that roof structure looks like.
Kiki.
Dean, on that, so are we to assume you're not considering adding a whole nother floor
There's
to your
not
project?
enough.
You're wanting some height variance for visual breakup.
2 constraints that we have there. 1, parking. We don't have enough parking in the parking structure to allow for more units for additional height for living space. And 2, it just doesn't give us a full height that we'd want to build another floor.
Thank you.
Does a request like this need to go back to the ad hoc architectural review committee, or?
Yeah, we've pretty much vetted this. We don't as of yet know kind of what they're looking at for the increased height modulation and kind of what that looks like. But if the board were to be comfortable of setting a number about, not a height not to exceed X based on their public amenities that they've provided, I think that would be helpful both for the Atlas project team and for the development team to work forward. So as Dean said, he's 6 inches away from the 45-foot deal, and he's going to go past that. But I don't know if you have a number yet to give us about, can we get 50 feet? Or, how do we get to a point where you feel comfortable and we feel comfortable about moving forward with this?
Well, again, anything that would just help us. It's tight right now, to be honest, and it does have constraints on our design ability. So giving an extra 5 feet, we can't build an extra floor. We may only need another 6 inches to a foot to really allow for it, but it does give our creative people some latitude to get a little more creative on what that roof structure might look like. So in terms of an ask, yeah, if another 5 feet would be allowable because of the public functions that we're building into the project, we'd greatly appreciate that consideration. Of course, it would have to go back through, I believe, the design group to really vet to make sure that we still met the original intent.
Tony, what's right behind this? Is that 5A?
It is.
Yes.
So will this have any impact on the marketing of 5A?
Will it have any impact, any height increase would have an impact?
Right.
But potentially, but, 5 feet, I'm not sure if it would. We're still not quite sure what's going to happen on 5A, so it's a little tough to know about what that complex is
No, I
gonna look like.
understand that. That's my concern.
And honestly, it is something we took into consideration on the original design. That's why we didn't have one monolithic building across the entire front. So allowing some view corridors, through the buildings or certain angles through that area was something we considered because we were looking at both parcels at one point and the impact on both of them.
Thank you for sharing the comments from the Planning and Parks Department. It seemed like there was general support to accommodate a height variance, given the public benefit and some of the other modifications. Do I have in mind that they kind of gave a number that they thought was reasonable, or is that?
They did not give a specific number.
Okay.
They just kind of said
A general-
a few feet.
Yeah, okay, that's.
A few.
So today, you're looking for general guidance on accommodating a height variance, but approval for the modifications and extension, correct?
Right. The main thing in front of you today is the approval of the new concept that you've seen presented and the time frame extension.
Yeah.
But I think part of the new redesign concept, this height issue comes into play. And I'm not sure if the board is ready at this time to set a number, or if you just want to kind of say, yes, we will consider the number and let the team go back and decide what they want to come back with, but they might come back taller than you want. They might go all the way to 53 feet and you might not want to go there. So it's kind of kind of up to you how you want to proceed on this front. The most they can do is 53 feet. They're at 44 and 6 inches right now. So.
Mr. Chair, Tony, so once they do kind of the final design and figure out is there still an element whereby there's a group here who kind of approves that final kind of design before they can proceed, or?
You can make any approval you do today conditional on anything you like. I mean, if you say, yes, we give you we approve this new design concept that you presented and your time frame conditioned upon you coming back and giving us a definitive height request, however you want to do it, you can condition anything.
I don't want to micromanage
Right.
and over involve ourselves in the process, but I have a book on my desk that says if you give a mouse a cookie, and so it's just part of my nature to think, to make sure that we're understanding what we're doing here. So.
I just want to make clear, we're not asking for the height right now.
Okay.
We don't know. It'd be great to get guidance, and I think that's what we're looking for. We do need some approval on the timeline to continue to move forward successfully. And again, I think we're being very conservative on our timeline, but we do need that approval and guidance today.
I guess I would say I would be willing to allow them flexibility in design for some extra feet. A few feet, yeah, a few feet. With the understanding that's to help them create the right aesthetic and balance in the space. I don't know if that's adequate enough, but maybe it is to proceed, and then we could discuss the other issues separately. I don't know how anyone else
Bill,
feels.
you've been involved in architecturally of this. Do you have any thoughts?
I do. I think just what Commissioner Garcia said might be sufficient design direction for them. If you were to say, gosh, go forth and have your design team look at a couple of feet, if that helps. If 3 feet is better, quickly tell Tony and Phil, and they'll bring it back to us. Because we meet often enough that we could bring it back to you guys and say, hey, they went to 9 feet. And you could say, whoa, that's not what we were thinking of. Back to Commissioner Arman's point, which is, I think, a very valid consideration with the 5A piece. That is your property you intend to sell, right? So you want to not do anything to diminish the value of it. So I think Commissioner Garcia's point, a little bit of latitude, couple of feet, go forth and design. Tony and Phil can bring it back to you and vet it at that point. And then you can gauge the merits of the architecture and the public good that is supposed to come with it. Because I think what Dean is proposing, he can correct me if I'm wrong, hey, we're doing public good, we want to use that public good for our height increase, and we want that public good for the easement that the city just gave us. There's an element of double duty there that you might say, gosh, if we're going to give you a height increase, we want you to build a Ferris wheel out there for us too. So I think that might be,
good idea.
that might be the balance. If they come back with a design request, you can evaluate the impact and then evaluate what sort of public good you want.
Thanks.
So is that helpful?
Yeah, very.
Because to be clear, the PUD does require public benefit to go above the height restriction. So that's where there's the public benefit associated with the easement that the city's granting, and then there's the public benefit that's required for the height increase. And you guys get to decide if they can use the same public benefit for both or how those correspond to each other. But there are two kind of places where public benefit is coming into play for requests that are being made.
Tony, would one motion with design changes, timeline changes, and flexible footage, one motion, or do you want?
You can do it any way you like. You can have one motion, you can have two motions.
I just wanted to throw in here, looking at this from the city perspective, I have no problem with this. A couple feet being 2 and a few feet being 5, that's okay. But the general public is not amenable to increased heights and floors. I mean, that's a big talking point in the community right now. So I think that it's important to note that I wouldn't be in favor of an additional, like you said, prohibited, but still, the public thought is no more height. So just making that comment.
Just to clarify, no more height that increases another floor.
Correct. Increases another floor.
And that, I mean, if
Good to know.
that's part of a
You
motion
already
or
had
whatever like
said,
that.
you're
yeah, we're not
already
worried about
constrained,
that.
so you're good with that. I
Yes.
just wanted to make sure that was stated on the public's behalf.
As a quick follow-up, Mr. Chairman, if I may, to Commissioner Miller, I think what we're thinking about there is correct, that additional density is probably difficult for the community to stomach at this point. However, I'd like to give the creative design team here a pretty broad leeway to come back to us and show us what you can do with 2 feet versus what you can do with 9 feet as far as the interest of the roof line goes and what creates community value. Because what Dean's done is a very effective way of creating a box, and that's what you're working within. We all do that within the zoning envelope, but allowing some interest in the roof lines. My fellow Commissioner Jester, who's the architect who isn't here today, I'd like to represent him because
Yeah.
there's some interesting things with variety we can do there. So I'd suggest that we give them the leeway up to the maximum and leave it in the developer's discretion. He's hearing what we're saying today. Come back to us with something that makes us want to say yes. Then I think we've got an easy opportunity to evaluate it a future
Good
date.
point.
Well said.
So I can make the motion then,
Go ahead.
which is that we would, and help me, coach me through it here, we will begin, in the beginning, we'll allow or indicate our willingness to consider a height variance up to the maximum allowable by the PUD, up to 53 feet, to the developer's discretion and our ultimate approval. Approval of the additional easement, and approval of the change in the time frame in the DDA.
I'd second that.
So I think that the easement is a city issue, so we don't need to approve that.
Excuse me.
Design
And then
changes.
it's the change to the design from where we were in the DDA to what Dean showed today that we need to approve or consider.
Yes, I think what we're describing here of the residential on the waterfront and the activated space back towards where the circulation is and still fronting the park, I think is an improvement in overall urban plan. So as proposed, however that goes in the public record, I would support.
Do you feel like you have what you need?
I will craft that motion.
Including
for
all,
not giving you better
including
building
all
blocks.
3 items.
So just for clarification, we're approving a height variance up to the maximum of 53
53
feet
feet.
for design flexibility, I guess, and neighborhood sense. We're approving a change in the originally proposed DDA design concept, and we're creating an extension of 14 months from the original DDA required start date.
And a new finish date of Q2 2028, which is prior to the 2031 that's in the current DDA.
Yeah, that.
So it's no longer phased. I would say too that you're not approving up to 53 feet. You're approving,
Oh, right.
giving them
Correct.
design
Latitude.
latitude
This is a
to
tough
bring
one to
back
put it
a
all
proposal.
together.
And you will have, you'll come back, you'll have final say once again, as
Okay. That
Commissioner
was one of
Meyer
my very
pointed out.
first questions,
Yeah.
was will we have final say, and that was
For
what
sure.
I was concerned
As
about.
Phil
yes.
Will
pointed
that
out.
be a change to the PUD when that comes back?
No change to the PUD.
It's not going to have to be a change to the PUD. We're just going to have to make the determination that the public
Within.
benefit is
It's
there.
worth the hype.
Yes.
You as the Ignite Board are the arbitrator on what is sufficient public benefit. So it's all up to, as they say in Pennsylvania, Ewens, to make that call. So
So I'll second, we kind of did a joint motion here.
Second
Oh,
already.
Mick second.
Mick seconded. Phew. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all for that great discussion and
you.
comments, and motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, next up is a project update from Mr. Phil Boyd with Welch Comer Engineers.
Hey, Tony,
Thank you, Dean.
In which one? In the city?
yeah.
The city thing?
Because you didn't say the clarification.
Chairman Hoskins, board members, I have a very
Just need
short
to put
presentation
another one in down
today.
there.
Just two things, a little update on the attainable housing master planning and on the Phase 3 earthwork. You guys have seen this schedule before. We're currently in September, starting developer interviews. We're a little bit behind schedule on the conceptual layout that I wanted to show you today. I don't have a product yet to show you because we've been struggling with the elevation difference. So we're working on density. I think as we've talked about before, we originally had 75 units in there. We're pushing in the 120 unit category of driving density up. And it's taken us a little bit more time to deal with the topography and work through the surface model. So we're working on that, starting on the developer interviews. We're working on scheduling our October ad hoc committee meeting number 2. So we're progressing. And then very quickly, and I know Commissioner Arman always likes these pictures. So this is the view of Phase 3 right here. This is Heartwood. Pepper Smock's products at Twin Homes that he has under construction are right here. He has some other ones down here, the single-family home. So Celtice Way, to give you your orientation. This is, you can kind of see the stockpile of material hill. A lot of this came out of the resort building, the tower that's under construction. And we've just been collecting structural soils where we can. A lot of the foundations that were excavated here, we allowed the contractors to bring them here. So it just minimizes how much we had to import over time. And this is the cottage court. You all remember that this is the non-structural soils. This is another view looking back towards Riverstone here. This is one of Dennis Cunningham's developments in this. John and Ann Butler's areas, Twin Homes in this area. That's actually a triple right there. But this is, and then Area 13, you can just see the edge of it right there, which will be soon nicely landscaped. So, and then you can see another view of the stockpiles here. So this is the work that has gone on recently in anticipation of N.A. Dakerstrom, who we did that agreement last month, bringing soil off of I-90 into here, structural soils into here. And I think as you guys are all aware, the strike kind of slowed things down. We were out there getting prepared, anticipating them. La Riviere has been out there moving earth. You can see their water drop there and their scrapers. They moved in quite a bit of equipment because we were kind of like, we got to hurry up and get this prepared for N.A. Dagerstrom and spread the soils out. And they hurried and got out there, and it looks like this now, and we've been waiting. But now with the strike off, we should have some more activity soon out there. So that is my brief update.
Great. Questions or comments for Mr. Boyd?
Question, Phil. If I recall correctly, there's some DEQ rules about when Dagerstrom has to stop excavating in that winter. Do we have enough time remaining to complete whatever import we're looking for so we can finish our site before that window closes? I think November 15th.
I'm not sure, because we had diggers from schedule, and when things got shut down, they called and kind of said, we'll send you a new schedule. So I wish I could answer the question. We're looking at somewhere between 40 to 60,000 yards of import, depending on how they haul material in. If they do it with off-road trucks, they could haul 4,000 or 5,000 yards a day. I'm not sure that they'll be allowed to do that, if the city will allow that. If they do it with on-road trucks, you might be in the 1,000 to 1,500 to 2,000 yards a day. So just kind of doing quick math in there, you can see how many days that might take if we're hauling 40,000 yards in there. It could be a while.
I understand the constraints. It'd be interesting to look at potentially accelerating one side of the site versus the other. If there's a way to get one that we could take to market sooner, would be an interesting evaluation, but you'll
yeah.
chew on that a little bit.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we can't absorb that many units if that entire area comes on at once, but if we focused on one,
Yep.
might be able to stage that out naturally by the availability of
Yep,
materials. But
yep, yeah, good suggestion.
Anything else for Phil?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I have, Mr. Chairman.
Next up is the election of officers.
Is that yours?
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion that we re-elect the current chair and vice chair for Ignite CDA, which would be Mr. Hoskins as the chair and Ms. Metz as the vice chair. And that is my motion and recommendation.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any comments or suggestions or?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is not here.
And is it,
Since Olivia wasn't
Metz
here,
isn't
we were
here?
gonna switch.
That would be great. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Thanks. Next up, it's time for board commissioner comments. Does any commissioner have a comment for this month? Seeing none, how about a motion to enter executive session?
That's usually my job, so
Right.
I'll make a motion to enter executive session pursuant to Idaho Code Section 74206, subsection 1B, to consider the evaluation of the Ignite CDA Executive Director.
second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
There he goes. Mr. Arman.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Hoskins.
Yes,
Mandel.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
we're in executive session, and Mike, that's a wrap.